Hola, mi nombre es Zerendira Guerrero. My name is Zerendira Guerrero. I am the director of Encompass Head Start programs. And I want to start by answering the first question. What is Head Start? Head Start is a program with a very strong history and trajectory nationwide. Locally, we've been in Santa Cruz County for over 50 years. I'm really proud to say that we have centers across the county from Watsonville to San Lorenzo Valley. At these centers, we provide wraparound services to families. These include health, nutrition, parent engagement, and obviously child development. I'm really proud of the services we provide because they're really set up to support our most vulnerable families that have high needs. And we're talking about families experiencing homelessness, children in foster care, or just families that are working really hard to make their dreams happen. And we are fortunate enough that we are one of those agencies that gets to partner with the families to support them in reaching their full potential along with their children. And just like any other agency in the county, the pandemic took us for a spin. We had to close our centers to in-person services and move to 100% distance remote work. This was really challenging for our children, for our families, for our staff. As we know, children come to our centers to engage with each other, to learn in beautiful environments, and when we weren't able to do that, it was very challenging, but we were very fortunate to have received some funding, some CARES funding that allowed us to shift quickly. We were able to provide the adequate PPE to our staff. We were able to purchase items like tablets and laptops to be able to set up to provide the services as well as to loan out to families who had that need. And we were also able to provide monthly care packages that have activities for the families, some toys, some books, and some resource information so that families can really understand what was happening around COVID as well as prepare. This was some of the things that we did in our shift, but like I said, felt very fortunate that we were able to do it successfully, and you will hear more about that when we share some data with you. The other piece that really came to life for us was obviously our ability to respond to natural disasters like the fires that happened up in our Santa Cruz Mountains. We had a couple of families and staff that were impacted by that. But again, we were able to shift and provide the support needed so that the families and the staff could stabilize. And like everybody else, engage in the conversation around racial equity. That has become center of the work that we do, not just now, but it's part of what Head Start is about. We are an agency that came out of the need to stabilize and make available education to all. And so we feel very proud of our history and that this is part of the conversations we've had, but we also know that it's time for us to revisit and make sure that we are meeting the needs of all people, all children that we serve, and that our policies and our actions are aligned with our intent to be proactive around racial equity. So that's definitely an important conversation we are currently engaging in and will continue to do so. The self-assessment, which we'll be talking about today, is that opportunity for our program to take a pause, to reflect, and to really think about not if we're doing things right, but are we doing the right things? Are we doing the things that our community needs from us? Are our services still relevant given the changes that we're experiencing in that community? And so today you'll hear about that. You'll hear about some data. You'll hear some stories that tell you of the work that we've been doing. And we share this because we want to take the opportunity to help you understand a little bit more of who we are, what services we provide, but we also want to learn from our parents, from our staff, from our partners, what could we do differently? where could we partner to make things more accessible, to make things more appropriate for the children and families. So when you ask me what is Head Start is a partner. Head Start is a partner for children and families to make sure dreams happen.
The most important goal in our program this year has been ensuring health and safety of children and staff. Our program has used funds from the CARES Act to purchase personal protective equipment, cleaning supplies, and other items to promote social distancing at our sites. And thankfully, we have not had any confirmed transmission of coronavirus at our centers. We've used almost $300,000 of the CARES funds. It has not been without hiccups, however. We experienced shipping delays, supply shortage, and canceled orders, and needed to train staff on a completely new way of working together. Staff have been learning about and practicing the community resiliency model, which uses a trauma-informed approach to increase resiliency for both staff and families. A majority of staff reported that the model supported their overall teaching effectiveness and their skills partnering with families. Even with precautions at the centers, our families and staff have been impacted by COVID-19 circulating in the community. 44% of children's absences in in-person services were in some way COVID-19 related, either due to child symptoms, family member symptoms, known exposures, or COVID-19 related fears. 18 staff have tested positive for COVID-19. Altogether, 28 staff received COVID-19 related leaves of absence. 16 staff members have left since March 2020. We have noticed an increase in the number of families sharing about life-threatening diseases impacting the family. At the same time, families are less likely to access preventative care. The number of children who are up to date on the EPSDT schedule dropped from 38% at enrollment to 20%. Many children are missing important screenings, 224 children in Head Start and 112 in Early Head Start. Another impact to health and safety has been food insecurity in our community. The school districts and food banks have done an incredible job serving the whole community, and we've been able to get meals up and running for children in distance services in our program since this January. According to the Pajaronian, PVUSD provided almost 4 million meals between March and December. The CZU complex fire also posed a major threat to health and safety. Families and staff living in the Santa Cruz Mountains were evacuated for 2 to 5 weeks, and nearly 1,000 homes were lost. We also saw the fire's impact further afield. Children with asthma were forced to miss school due to the terrible air quality. 991 homes in total were destroyed.
My experience navigating the health and safety protocols has been a learning experience for me. I've been learning a lot about COVID and been in trainings, and I've been able to speak to teachers, getting their feedback, trying to work with their site supervisors to be able to provide them with whatever they need just to make sure their environment is safe and they're able to provide a safe, secure place for their families and their children.
So my family's health this year has been impacted, with the pandemic going on and everything. As far as health appointments, they've been postponed during the pandemic. Both Layla and Camila had to postpone their annual dental and medical checkup.
Todo eso nos afectó, todas las citas han sido por online o por videollamadas. No han podido asistir más que ha asistido Ivana para lo del chequeo físico.
When we talk about school readiness, we are talking about the whole child and the whole family's preparation to enter and be successful in school. This means not only academic knowledge, but also social emotional development, physical health, and parent engagement. Schooling was disrupted for millions of children this year, and locally was no different. Parents are understandably concerned about learning loss. We offered distance services when we were unable to be open for in-person class or when we were doing a hybrid model. One major impact we see to school readiness is just the number of children not being served, both in terms of low enrollment and low attendance in in-person services. We've hovered around 67% enrollment all year long due to disrupted recruitment activities, families not able to participate in distance services, and families hunkering down. Additionally, attendance has been down in our in-person services. In Head Start in-person classes, regular attendance dropped from 45% to 21%. Latino children were less likely to attend regularly, only 16%, compared with 40% of white non-Latino children. In home base, we saw a surprising positive note. The rate of regular attendance increased from 36% last year to 56% this year. We suspect that this reflects fewer cancellations for minor illness because home visits were virtual and quicker, more flexible rescheduling of canceled visits due to low caseloads and no travel time between visits. In child outcomes assessments, we are seeing that children are continuing to make progress, but gains are lower than previous years. One major challenge has been building strong connections with families in the virtual environment, which has impacted child assessments, among other things. 28.6%, or more than a quarter of children, were considered unable to rate in the fall, and 16.2% in the winter. We see that 3-year-olds scored much higher than 4-year-olds across domains. This could reflect that many 3-year-olds were coming from early Head Start and benefited from ongoing learning throughout the summer. Symbolic play, which is foundational for math and literacy, has shown gains, but continues to be an area where more children are below age expectancy.
I've heard a lot of concerns from parents, and I think with us not being there, it's hard for us to model.
Sí tenía un poco de preocupación por el aprendizaje de Ivana, pero gracias a las maestras que lo han estado haciendo muy bien por el Zoom, Ivana se ha incorporado de nuevo a estar en la escuela.
What really helped during the distance learning was having the one-on-ones with the teacher so they can have that connection with the teacher still during the school year, but also during group class, being able to see the other children, because it was really hard to get that social emotional connection. So I feel like they adapted very well and they were still able to do the activities that we're instructed to. The most helpful, I would say, for me as a parent is having those one-on-ones with teacher Jasmine after she was done having her session with Camila, because I was able to talk to her about how it's been for me working full-time, working from home, also helping with 2 kids doing virtual distance learning. So I feel like that also impacted me and helped me a lot.
Usually when I do my health and safety reviews at the sites, I'm able to see sometimes when the teachers are interacting with the kids through Zoom class, and I kind of hear the little ones speak out and laugh and like with happiness, like, teacher, that's you there. So for them, it's like, I guess it's something they wait for in interacting with someone besides being inside the house.
I think really the only thing I wish the program would have done differently was given the option to do like outdoor home visits when, like say for example, for when the center-based staff was able to be open. I think that's probably the only thing, but I can also understand where the where we do have to like follow what we've written down in like our guidance and everything. So
family wellness is another focus area. Families across the country experienced incredible hardship this year. Unemployment in Watsonville spiked in March 2020 and has since settled into a more typical rhythm, which is still much higher than other areas of Santa Cruz County. Homelessness continues to greatly impact our community and our families. 39 families reported experiencing homelessness or being at risk of experiencing homelessness. 28% of them are white or non-Latino, and 72% are Latino. This doesn't match the community data that shows 91% of school children experiencing homelessness in school year 1920 were Latino, and 6% were white. This shows that we may be missing a critical group of families in our recruitment and enrollment efforts.
The challenges that my family has faced this year was not having my kids have that social, emotional connection with other children their age. So I feel like that was a challenge. As far as successes, how we were able to transition to that, it was being able to participate in socials and have that social emotional connection virtually with other kids. I think with everyone getting vaccinated and we're all looking for the future, I think it'll be a little bit more easier to transition to maybe outdoor activities later on for birthdays and stuff. So we're excited to help support our children in that social emotional connection.
¿Cómo ha impactado a mi familia la salud este año? Pues la primera es porque no puedo asistir a la escuela, es un poco difícil estarlos ayudando por online. Y más que nada porque ya se están como deprimiendo de estar encerrados. No han podido convivir con sus amigos ni con la familia. Es todo que nos cambió a todos la vida. Algo muy diferente este año y el año pasado.
I think it's hard for parents to want to do Zoom calls just because, they have to, maybe worry about like their house or like how they look or how their child looks or, anything like that. I do think that like they've been more open to like phone calls. I think in the beginning they were just like, well, why can't you just like come over? But I think there has been a lot of good that came from it. One of my biggest successes with the family was I had a child who I started with him when I started the program. So I started and he was like 5 months or something. He's been on my caseload since then. But at around the beginning of the pandemic, he went into CPS. And I kind of lost connection with them. It wasn't until recently that Dad got custody of him again. And I was able to do like my first like Zoom call with them like not too long ago. And just like seeing him and like seeing how like he's changed and like how Dad's changed, like it was amazing.
Family outcomes show comparable needs to last year, which was surprising. We suspect 2 factors may be impacting this result. 1, connections and relationships with families have been more distant this year, meaning that families may feel less comfortable sharing hardships they're experiencing with staff. And 2, families are still in crisis mode, and the outcomes will more accurately reflect hardships when they have taken some breathing space to take stock of the impact of this year. Family outcomes showed a slight increase in need from last year, but the increase was lower than we expected. Additionally, mental health referrals are down, contrary to our expectations. There were 29 last year compared with 12 this year. One way we have tried to support connections with families is by providing staff and families with the technology they need to facilitate distance connections. 54 cellular-enabled tablets have been given out to families to participate in distance services, and we have provided mental health support kits to almost 400 families per month since January. This is one way to ensure that families are getting mental health support even when our referrals are down.
Head Start, as a whole, they're actually putting a lot of effort into providing resources for the families. A good example will be teachers, family service advocates, communicating with families to see what's going on in their lives, to see if there's any way they can help, any resources they might be needing. We have Maricela, one of our staff members, who is in charge of ordering meals for the families. So she's on top of it. She's making sure that the families who are receiving the distant learnings are receiving their meal for the kid. Site supervisors are working on creating care packages for the families to take home and for them to be able to have some PPE supplies and some activities for their kids too, for them to interact with their kids as they're doing an activity.
What I would want the community to know about Early Head Start is that home visitors, teachers, really any staff with Early Head Start or Head Start is there for the family and the child.
El programa Como Apoyado a mi hija, dándoles apoyo con comida y dándoles materiales y siguiendo dándoles como la educación, pero que sea por Zoom, que sea a distancia, pero les están enseñando muchas cosas.
Something that did stand out that I noticed is how all the teachers and all the staff really came together to help support not only the policy council but to support parents during the pandemic. And I feel like you all did a very good job as far as transitioning to distance learning. So I mean, you all did amazing, and I want to thank all of you guys for that, honestly.
In this retrospective, we have the opportunity to pause, analyze, and learn. So what can we learn about this year? Both our challenges and our successes. How can we use these hard lessons to better prepare for the future and better serve our children and families? Thank you.